ahead, on behalf of the Prime Minister, I would like you to invite you to drinks this evening from 9:30. These will take place in the Prime Minister's office in the House of Commons. I look forward to seeing you there.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree, Alison Thewliss. SNP MP for Glasgow Central, no doubt, who was basically showing how crass and vile this government really are when it comes to this legislation on the Safety of Rwanda Asylum and Immigration Bill, where it was the consideration of the Lord's message, apparently. But take it away, Alison Thewliss.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Well, the Minister opened by saying that he had looked forward last week to not debating this bill. Well, I wish indeed that the bill had never been brought to this House in the first place and that we wouldn't have to debate this bill. I wish that it had never seen the light of day. And if he never wanted to debate it again, he could have, of course, accepted the Lord's amendments last week instead of stringing this out for even longer, because these are perfectly legitimate amendments that the Lords have brought. But I see that the members on the benches opposite are seeking to get around the tedium of voting on amendments to render vulnerable people overseas. There's a text message circulating on X in the name of the Government Chief Whip saying, "Dear colleagues, with a potentially long and historic night ahead, on behalf of the Prime Minister, I would like you to invite you to drinks this evening from 9:30. These will take place in the Prime Minister's office in the House of Commons. I look forward to seeing you there." How absolutely heartless and despicable that the members in the opposite benches are quaffing drinks while they're thinking about sending people to Rwanda. How utterly without any kind of moral background whatsoever. And should the Lords send back further amendments tonight, should they carry out the procedural, unusual procedural matter of double insistence, I would certainly support them very much in that endeavour. Any mechanism that we can use in this place to stop this bill is what we should do. I will.
I thank the honourable friend for giving way, and I congratulate her on using every procedure that is available to her to state the SNP's opposition, not least, Madam Deputy Speaker, by moving amendments in the Reasons Committee last week, because we in the SNP will take every single opportunity to express our opposition to this outrageous plan.
I thank him for his intervention and would note on the record that Labour did not vote on any of the reasons that I sought to amend in the Reasons Committee, and I've yet to have any explanation as to why they wouldn't use any mechanism available to them to oppose this bill. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, we had yet another press conference this afternoon where the Prime Minister didn't come to this House to talk about his gurning and his greeting that those mean old Lords wouldn't let him have his way. And I would point out that the Conservatives have over 100 more Lords than Labour, and perhaps a lack of enthusiasm from their own Lords is reflective of the fact that many of them didn't even show up to vote last week. Because this is not in the Conservative Party manifesto. They have no mandate for the Rwanda plan whatsoever. And indeed, what manifesto would they put in front of people which would say we're going to set out to breach our international commitments and engage in state-sponsored people trafficking? What manifesto indeed would that be? And just to mention very briefly, Madam Deputy Speaker, some of the things that the Prime Minister mentioned in his statement, suddenly conjuring up a whole load of judges to determine these cases, when they could be better served, perhaps, looking at the appeals backlog that his incompetent bulk processing of asylum claims has created. He mentioned charter flights being booked. Well, many commercial companies had refused to be involved in the charter flights at all, including the Rwandan state carrier. So which companies have been engaged to do this, and at which cost? We still don't know. He said that the first flight will leave in 10 to 12 weeks. Will this be before or after we reach summer recess? Because we know already how far the timescale has slipped for the government on this, and what scrutiny will occur should these flights take off during recess. Madam Deputy Speaker, if they do indeed manage to send anybody to Rwanda, where are they going to put them? Because we know that the Rwandans have sold off the housing that they set up to place people in. Will they be piling them up in tents? I wouldn't put it past this government, but it would be useful to know. Moving to the Lords' amendments themselves, Madam Deputy Speaker, we fully support these Lords' amendments, which do their very best to mitigate an absolutely dreadful piece of legislation. And I cannot see what the government's objection really ought to be in Amendment 3G. They were all about taking back control, but yet there were absolutely no parliamentary scrutiny whatsoever of whether Rwanda remains a safe country. And the honourable member from Kenilworth and Southam quite rightly pointed out, we have no means in this place of declaring Rwanda unsafe. We say it's safe for in perpetuity, forever and ever and ever. We can't declare it unsafe should something happen. That is just not logical. And I would note also that the Irish High Court ruled last month that the UK, in fact, is not a safe country to send asylum seekers to in light of these plans. I fully support also the new Amendment 10F from the Lords regarding Afghans. And I've mentioned it many times before, my support for those Afghans who served and supported UK objectives in Afghanistan, and how woeful the government's response to the need of those people has been. And I would point... I will briefly, yes.
I'm grateful to her for giving way. Would she agree with me that rather than spending £11,000 per person to deport them to Rwanda, that money could be used right now to rescue my constituent and his wife, who got out of Afghanistan into Pakistan and are now stuck there waiting for the UK government to rescue them?
I wholeheartedly agree, and I know of many such cases of people who have been sorely let down by this government. And we note that the figures that the government brought out this morning, that there has been an increase in small boat arrivals this past 3 months compared to last year. So it's hardly any kind of deterrent if people are still coming over in small boats in their droves. But I would note amongst them were 1,216 Afghans, an increase on the 1,098 that came in the same period last year. If he thinks the Afghan schemes are such a roaring success, why are so many Afghans being forced onto small boats just to get to safety? Many of them will have family in this country. Many of them will not have been able to avail themselves of the Afghan schemes he so talks up. And many of them will not have been able to use family reunion, which is an existing safe and legal route which many people are not able to access. Madam Deputy Speaker, in light of time, I will not go further into the detail of some of the Afghan cases I wished to raise. But I will say this to this government. This legislation is utterly despicable. It is state-sponsored people trafficking. It is against our obligations in international law, and Scotland wants no part of it. We will oppose it every step of the way.
I can listen to Alison Thewliss all day. Also, I agreed with everything she said as well, and agreed with Patrick Grady and Peter Grant as well. But every time I hear her speak, I'm always impressed with her intelligence, her passion and her heart. Because let's be honest, it's about the size of a frying pan, as we say, isn't it? And I think you people up in Scotland are very lucky to have her fighting in your corner. But what do you guys think? Which part of her speech resonated with you? Let me know down below, and I shall bid you farewell and take care, my friends.